Good afternoon, good morning to everyone who's watching today. Welcome to our next financial webinar. I'm Michael Horn, Vice President here at Final Frontiers Foundation.
My name is Daniel Nelms, President of Final Frontiers.
My name is Scott, last name Vigneri, anything close, and I'll be presenting today.
So as always, if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the Q&A box or in the chat box, and we'll get to it as we go along. And be on the lookout for future webinars. You can always check our website at finalfrontiers.world/webinars, and you can sign up for our upcoming ones after this. And with that, I'll pass it over to Scott.
Thank you, sir. So as we often mention, the whole basis for these webinars is to help us learn of ways to give, to help get the gospel out around the world. And it's amazing what is being accomplished throughout the world and how many people are getting saved throughout the world. This is a Christian-based presentation. And just for those of you who aren't aware, we will talk about the Bible and Jesus and the gospel, but you're welcome to stay. Anybody and everybody's welcome. I just want you to understand that we are going to talk about that. And today we're going to talk about reverse mortgages. And at first, many people go, wait, what? Reverse mortgages? And many people have heard lots of bad things about them and how they, they'll come in the night and take your house away and drag you out on the street. So we're going to talk about those things and kind of give you some information. And that's, again, the basis for all these webinars is to make you aware of what tools are available that can help you accomplish. And if you want to help God's word get out, if you want to help the gospel, there's things you can do. Many people aren't aware of this. Many people aren't aware of reverse mortgages and just how much impact they can have and what they can do for you. And primarily because there was a lot of bad information about them in the beginning. So with that in mind, we'll go ahead and get started. First slide, and we always have the same starting picture. I always think of this young lady, and we don't know her heartbreaks. We don't know her fears, but God does. And God created this young lady, and God wants to get the gospel to her. And she, I believe, is down in Honduras. But we can find similar type situations in the Philippines, Ukraine. We can find similar situations in South America, in Peru. We can go to Africa. I have some friends that are on the mission field in Tanzania. Or we can go to Ghana. What is it? I can't remember the name. Burkina Faso? That doesn't sound right. In Africa.
Burkina Faso.
Faso, okay. There are many pastors there hazarding their lives, literally. And in Pakistan and different areas of the world to get the gospel out. And Final Frontiers has a major part in helping a lot of these people help to get the gospel out. And so we want to be a part of that. And so reverse mortgages, like I mentioned in the beginning, have a lot of negative, publicity. So let's go on to the next slide. What do reverse mortgages have to do with charity? Well, that's kind of the point. Seemingly reverse mortgages, I'm going to minimize you guys, sorry.
No problem.
Reverse mortgages would have nothing to do with charity, but it can be another tool in our toolbox to help get the gospel to a seeking world. And like I mentioned, reverse mortgages have a bit of a bad rap, but they have become regulated and turned into a very sophisticated tool in a person's financial portfolio. HECM, that means home equity conversion mortgage, as opposed to an HELOC, a HELOC, home equity line of credit. And you can do the same thing on a reverse basis, a reverse mortgage line of credit. But that's, that's a little deeper subject. So let's go on to the next one. There's many myths that are surrounding reverse mortgages, but let's touch on some of the basics. There are what we'll call them private reverse mortgages. And then there's also the government regulated reverse mortgages. A private type transaction can allow up to $4 million in tax-free cash, or you can use it as a reusable line of credit. What this does is allow you to stay invested in your mutual funds, your stocks, your crypto, without having to pull money out for living expenses. You can use the equity in your home for your living expenses for a while at least, and yet have the cash to maintain your lifestyle. The FHA regulated program requires the applicant to be at least 62 years of age. Private usually is about 55 years old. Now, you will look into a program and there's always little differences here and there, but these are just broad ranges. But the FHA does require 62 years of age for the applicant. It is called an HECM, a home equity conversion mortgage. There are no monthly payments. And a lot of people think there are monthly payments. No, there are not. Which leads us to the myths, and we're going to call them fables here. And there are possible tax advantages too. So let's go ahead and advance to the next slide. Fable number 1. The bank or the lender takes possession of the home. With a reverse mortgage, what actually happens is the borrower or the estate continues to retain the ownership of the home's title. It is no different than a regular mortgage. You have the deed, but there's a mortgage against it. It's the same thing. The lender's interest is limited to the outstanding loan balance as a lien on the property. If I go to a bank and I get a home equity line of credit, there is a lien on my property for that amount of the loan. Let's say I want to buy a new boat and I have $100,000 of equity and I want to go bass fishing, let's say, and there's a $50,000 for a boat. That's not too, when you factor in the outboard, that's not too far off the mark. Actually, it may be a little shy. But I want to go, I buy that boat, it's $50,000. I make payments. That is a lien on my property, on my home. And this is the same way. It's just a lien against the home. I don't sign over my house when the whole entire house when I get the home equity line of credit. Fable number 2. Reverse mortgage lenders just want to sell the house. In regard to that, the borrower can stay in their home for as long as they want, and as long as they meet the terms of the loan. Should they decide to sell the home or relocate, then the loan becomes due and payable. If you move out and you take permanent residence somewhere else, then yes, the loan would be payable at that time. But there's other options that we're going to talk about a little later. So they aren't in it to just, they actually don't want to have to go through the process of selling the house. That's just extra paperwork and a lot of administration on their side and a lot of legal, they have to pay legal fees and all this kind of stuff. They don't want to do that. And again, there are no monthly payments on a reverse mortgage. That's the whole point. It's to give you income, not take, not pay income, until the time comes where you can take the advantage of the equity in your home and then use it for today. Let's go on to fable number 3. A reverse mortgage is the tool of last resort desperation. That's one of the main things that a lot of people think about reverse mortgages. That is for people who have mismanaged their funds and are just have poor character and now they're desperate. No, in fact, people usually in that kind of a situation wouldn't qualify. So many times, for whatever reason, the home is not kept up, and then that's an issue. So it's actually just the opposite. It is fast becoming a very savvy and sophisticated financial planning tactic. A reverse mortgage is a powerful financial tool that can be an important part of your overall financial plan. I mean, we have a 401k, we have maybe an IRA, we have investments in stocks, maybe even some crypto. I'm seeing more and more people who are investing in crypto, and some of them are doing quite well. And some of them are not. But then you have the value of your home. And a lot of people, that value just deteriorates and they never use it. And they are living on, you know, licking soup can labels and stuff like that, even though they have the value of their home available to them. And there's really no reason to do that. So from paying off an existing mortgage to delaying Social Security, or even creating an emergency line of credit, a reverse mortgage is a flexible product designed to give you options. And in fact, with recent changes and the security of the U.S. Department of Housing and Development's FHA insurance, many financial planners have begun to discuss reverse mortgages with clients. And early on, many financial planners are the ones that decried and condemned them. But now, just like annuities, when I first started in this industry, annuities were condemned, and in many circles they still are. But even the American College is teaching about annuities. And I'm going to speak about one guy here who teaches at that college here towards the end. And so they're coming around and seeing the value. And like I said, they're now regulated by the FHA insurance. So many financial planners have begun to discuss reverse mortgages with clients as integral as 401ks and IRAs as a way to provide supplemental retirement income. Let's go on to Fable number 4. Fable number 4, a reverse mortgage leaves borrowers with nothing left to leave to their heirs. The fact is that since the money from the reverse mortgage is borrowed against the value of the home, and it does accrue interest and insurance is required, the balance does increase over time. But the original loan amount is usually restricted to around 50 to 60% of the home value. They won't give you 80 or 100%. Usually maybe max 70%, but on average 50 to 60%. And again, it depends on who you talk to, what company you use, what bank you use, so on and so forth, and where the government sits on it, your area and your value of your home, and so on and so forth. There's many variables that go into it. But on average, you only get about 50 to 60% of the value of your home. That said, the home may appreciate in value as well. That's not a given, but in most cases, most homes appreciate in value. I remember being in California decades ago, and there was this little house that was like 20 by 40, and it was not in very good shape. This is in the middle of this nice neighborhood. And this is like I said, decades ago. The price back then was $250,000. And it depends on where you're at. But real estate can appreciate, even just a lot appreciate. So, but again, it depends on where you're at. And, for the most part, it appreciates. So it is very possible that there may be a surplus of funds after the sale of the home and the loan is paid off. These are what they call non-recourse loans. What that means is that neither you nor your heirs can be held liable for any amount over the loan balance, as long as you maintain the home properly. That is one of the requirements, that you got to keep the home up and keep the insurance. So, like I said, it's a non-recourse loan. Let's move to Fable number 5. The heirs are responsible for repaying the loan. As stated earlier, reverse mortgages are non-recourse loans. Therefore, the lender can only derive repayment from the proceeds from the sale of the property. Even if the value of the home is dramatically reduced, the borrower or the heirs will never owe more than the value of the home. When the loan becomes due, the heirs have several options on what they can choose to do with the home. So let's say when you took out that loan, the value of the home was $200,000, but things changed, and now the value of the home is $150,000. You're never liable for more than what the original loan was. And if the loan, the home value dips below that, you're not liable for any more than that. So you are protected, and no, they're not going to come and drag you out of the house or anything like that. They can repay the loan. The heirs can repay the loan and keep the home for themselves, or they can sell the home and keep any remaining funds. So again, let's say the value of the house when you got the loan was $200,000, and you took out $100,000, and the value has grown to 225. So the loan has accrued, it's 110, let's say. Now you, the heir, are taking possession. You can sell it, and you can keep that difference for yourself after you pay off the loan. The other thing you can do is you can repay it and keep it for yourself, or you could sell the home and keep remaining funds, or just do nothing and just deed it over to the lender. So you do have several options. And so those are just some of the myths that surround reverse mortgages. There's several others. And as with so many things, the truth is often better than what is actually out there. And yes, I have to admit, there were abuses in the past, and there was a lack of regulation. And so there were people who got burned. But be sure you sit down with somebody you trust and know and has a good reputation. There are lenders. The mortgage industry is getting more and more regulated. Every loan officer has to have what they call an NMLS number. They have to be registered with the mortgage, what do you call it, organization. And then they have to go through training. They have to be licensed. And then they have to work with a certain lender. So you have recourse and ways to find out about them. If they don't have an NMLS, say that 10 times fast, number, I don't think I would suggest doing business with them. You know, that might be the back of the napkin kind of deal. You want to stay away. Oh, I can get you 95%. You don't want to put yourself in that kind of position. And, you know, if you have to ask too many questions of like, well, what if this happens? What if this happens? And it's too on the edge, this is probably not the kind of option that you want to look at. If you have enough equity and you've maintained your home and you're comfortable and this thing makes sense, then I would investigate it. But if it's just too tight and you are feeling constrained or desperate, really be careful about what you want to do. And don't get yourself in a situation where you regret it. So let's move on to the next one. So that's all well and good, but what does it have to do with the gospel? What does it have to do with charity? Well, a reverse mortgage can enable you to use a portion of the value of your home to help further the gospel. Again, if you could get a reverse mortgage of $100,000, you could take a part of that, let's say $10,000 or so. You could buy some motorbikes for some pastors. We saw a couple of slides ago, those two pastors who were just given motorbikes. What does that do? That helps them get from village to village. They don't just stay, many of these pastors don't just stay in one area and have a church that they don't go anywhere. They go from village to village. And this allows them to do that much more efficiently and safer in many cases. And we can help get pastors these motorbikes and help them see more people and see more people saved. Water systems. Man, how many water systems could there be? And when they have clean water, they don't get sick. If they're not sick, they can go to church. They can go to worship. They can, they can serve God themselves. But if they're sick because of some kind of illness they got through the water, like cholera or diphtheria or something like that, they can't get out and they're just barely surviving. In many cases, they don't survive. It depends on where you're at. You can take that $10,000 and I don't know how many water filtration systems that would buy, but quite a few. And the impact that that could have for the gospel. You could help build a church building. You could send hundreds, maybe even thousands of Bibles to different places. There's many, many things that you could do with that money. And you could see people saved. And maybe someday, if you're able to do that, somebody's going to come up to you and grab your hand and shake your hand, or maybe even hug you and say, thank you. Because of you, I'm here in heaven. Wouldn't that be tremendous to have somebody say, thank you for giving so I could hear the gospel? I told the story a couple times ago about this girl, and she was walking through her village, and her mother was into demonism. Her grandmother was into demonism, and she was forcing her granddaughter to be a leader in this demonic group. And this young lady was walking through a village, and a missionary was there giving the gospel using one of those portable slideshows. And this young lady could summon demons and tell them what to do. It sounds incredible to us, but that's how deep some of these parts of the world are into satanic and demonic activity. And she heard the gospel and she got saved. Not immediately. It was, I don't know, 2 or 3 times later when she sought out people and learned more, and she got saved. And she's running away from that life. Her grandmother's after her. One of those units that gives a slideshow, she got saved because of that. I want to be a part of that. I want to be able to help like that. And so this is one tool that we can use to help get the gospel out. We have talked about all kinds of things. We've talked about charitable remainder trust, charitable lead annuity trust. We talked about premium financing, charitable gift financing, many, many tools. And as I said, not everybody's going to use every tool, but one of these tools can help a lot of people. Maybe for you, a reverse mortgage is great, but for this guy, a charitable remainder annuity trust. I'm working with a gentleman right now. We are doing something like that. Donor advised funds. There's many tools out there, and that's the whole point of all these webinars, is to make you aware of what tools are out there available for you to use. And most of them have many tax advantages as well. There are certain tax advantages here as well. So it is important to talk with your tax advisor about the tax implications and the advantages and exactly how it all works for you. And by no means has this been an exhaustive exploration of reverse mortgages, but just a little something to make you more aware of your options. So we can go to the next page for the legalese. Oh, for further research, if you want to check out a little more on reverse mortgages, I can recommend a book by a Dr. Wade Pfau. And you may find him on LinkedIn, but he wrote a book called Reverse Mortgages: How to Use Reverse Mortgages to Secure Your Retirement. He is a professor of retirement income at the American College of Financial Services and the director of Retirement Income Certified Professional designation at the American College. He holds a doctorate in economics from Princeton University. He is also a contributor to Forbes and is a panelist for the Wall Street Journal. And he's got many other things. He writes tons and tons. He also started the RISA program, RISA. And if you get on LinkedIn, you'll learn more about that one. It's a survey that tells you what kind of situation you're in and what your best options are for your retirement. And your financial advisor can help you with that if he's there is a fee to your advisor to be a part of it. All right, now for the legal eagle. Please note that all charts and numbers are for illustration purposes only. Accuracy is neither warranted nor implied. We're not attorneys or tax advisors. This information is educational only and is not to be considered as advice or recommendations. It is imperative that you consult with a tax advisor and or attorney when considering any of these concepts. In addition, it's critical that the attorney or tax advisor and financial advisor are knowledgeable and practiced in these areas, that they're proficient. So, next slide. I think that's the end. I want to say thank you for joining us here. And hopefully this sheds a little light on reverse mortgage. And for some people, hopefully that can be an avenue for you to help the gospel get out. But all right, Michael, are there any questions?
We don't have any at the moment, but I definitely found it very interesting. Good to, I guess, understand it a bit more and know it's not a scam. That's pretty much all I've ever heard is reverse mortgages. You're gonna lose everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And that's part of the reason I thought about this. And just and Dr. Wade Pfau, he's very what's the word? Well, he's an economist with a doctorate, not just a degree in economics, but a doctorate in economics from Princeton University. So he's not a slouch, and he's very much advocating using reverse mortgages as a smart financial tactic. He also recommends income annuities, and income is very important. It's not how much, it's not how big the lump sum is, it's how much income, guaranteed income you're going to get off of your assets, and reverse mortgages can help with that. But all right.
Yeah, that was a
I
great
like
talk.
it.
We do have the next one scheduled for anyone who's interested in joining us. It's going to be April the 30th at 12. And the title is Crypto, AI, and Charity. So that sounds very intriguing.
Yes, that's one we're kind of walking into the wild frontier.
Yes.
And it's not just a wild frontier here, it's wild frontier everywhere. The world is still trying to figure out what to do with AI and crypto. And they're struggling with regulation. They feel like there should be regulation, and there should be. Well, where do you stop and where do you start? And AI is just constantly changing the landscape.
Sure.
And it's hard to keep up. And but it is, we can either put our head in the sand and be afraid and, you know, hope it doesn't touch us. It's too late. It's already touched you.
Yep.
You just don't know it.
Mhm.
And the same with crypto. So I will endeavor to help us to get at least a little more understanding about how all this works. And is it an option for giving to charity? And I'm sure in some ways, yes, it is. But this is going to be a learning experience for both of us, for all of us. So I just thought this is what we need to talk about. And so we're both going to learn about it. All right.
Sounds like fun.
I
We
think
do have a ministry webinar next month. It's about the ministry in Pakistan. That's coming on the April 23rd. Brother John Nelms will be giving a talk on what's been going on in Pakistan. So if you're interested in that, do register for that as well.
Amen. I love it.
So thank you everybody for your time.
Yes.
And we'll catch you next time. Everybody have a wonderful afternoon.
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.